Ahoy there, Captain Benzie here, coming at you with another video for Eve Echoes. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Eve Echoes development roadmap on Trello because there have been some updates. Now, if you're not familiar with Trello, well, don't feel ashamed, I wasn't until this whole COVID thing started and Eve Echoes released and they suddenly had this thing called Trello. Apparently everyone's familiar with it except me. It's a way to kind of schedule and showcase things going on. I think. For me, it's basically a way to get a sneaky peek into what the developers are, looking at and what they're working on, basically, what's going to be coming soon to Eve Echoes. I will put a link in the description below to the Eve Echoes Developer Trello so that you yourself can check this and see if it updates anytime soon, but I thought it'd be an interesting opportunity to sit down, talk about what's changed on here and what some of this could mean, because in true Eve style, it's not just like, oh hey, we're working on this. It's written in cryptic, sort of, almost flavourful code, as you'll see. Anyway, if you enjoy this video, please do let me know by hitting a like on it, sub to the channel, ding the notification bell, and if you fancy giving me an extra dose of support, please do head over to our Patreon page or the Redbubble merchandise store where you can help us out there. Anyway, all that said and done then, let's have a look at the Eve Echoes Developer Roadmap on Trello. Again, link is in the description. Now, on the left-hand side here, we've got the usual ongoing bugs and suggestions, Discord link, what this page is used for, etc, etc. That gives us a full breakdown there. We've seen October 2021, capital ship modules and skills, capital ships dreadnoughts, and capital ships jump drive sinusoidal fields. Now, all of that has now launched. Happy, happy days. We've got our capital ships, dreadnoughts, and indeed carriers, and we've got the whole jump drives and sinusoidal field generators and all the different support structures that came with that. So good, we can tick all of those off. Now, if we look at November 2021, things here get a little bit interesting. Now, starting from the bottom and going up, the capital ship Nanocore and the Interstellar Bazaar we both have. Interstellar Bazaar Neon Rain came with capital ship Nanocores. Yes, they're ridiculously difficult to get and are going to require you to spend a lot of real world money. Let's not lie about this. But at the same token, they're there at least. Again, we can tick these off the list. Then we have the tactical overlay. Now, again, for those of you who don't know, the tactical overlay was kind of when you zoom out in Eve Echoes, you would get a ring around you and concentric rings beyond those, showing different distances and ranges. And they had little lines on them as well, so that you could see how far things were away from your ship just by looking at this sort of overlay. In fact, you can actually kind of use the overlay to see how far ships are in different directions and even how they are above and below the plane of sort of the zero, the x-axis or z-axis, whichever one it is, the flat actual zero line that your ship is on, whether they're above you, whether they're below you, and which direction they all were. It's a really cool little thing, and if you were to ever jump back in my videos right the way back to the open beta, some of the videos there, especially ones for the worm, if you look for, basically type into my channel Captain Benzie Worm, and then jump back to the oldest video that comes up there, you'll see it in action, you'll see the tactical overview, and I miss that. I missed that, a lot of people really missed that, and it looks like it's due to come back in November 2021. Now, that's interesting because there's really not much of November 2021 left. In fact, if they're going to do their usual thing of releasing it on a typical patch on a Wednesday, then that pretty much leaves us with just next week. Otherwise, we're into December, which is a nice segue to looking at this awesome looking bit here for December 2021. There are a whole load of things here to talk about, and some things that are just like, wait, what? Again, we're going to start at the bottom here with the Yule Festival. Now, in sort of the Eve New Eden backstory, the lore, Yule is kind of it's the council where the four empires came together and agreed to stop fighting big wars against each other. And then that's celebrated every year in Eve with all kinds of different stuff. Now, the Yule Festival, obviously Yuletide in English, is the old pagan festival that was replaced by Christian Christmas, used as that sort of overlay over it of, hey, you can keep having your festivals as long as you make it about Jesus now. So yes, it's kind of got the similar name there, Yuletide and Yule, and this is of course the Christmas event basically in game. So expect some cool Christmas skins and hopefully a bit more content that we had in the Neon Rain event. In fact, if you jump back to last Christmas, we did have the Yule Festival then, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if it's pretty much the same thing. And I know some people will get sort of angry that, oh, how dare Netty sit there and do this whole thing of like just recycling events, but in fairness, that's what EVE Online's been doing for years now, and it's what every game does for years now. We were talking about this recently on New Eden Radio, talking about like how in World of Warcraft you have the Hallow's End event, and that is basically the same thing year in, year out, a few minor tweaks and changes here and there, but once you've done it once, you've pretty much seen it every time. That said, I do hope they tweak the formula, maybe we get a few more public anomalies and things that we can have fun with here. I like this. It gives me a reason to log in over the Christmas period and be ridiculously antisocial when I should be spending time with my family, and I'm always glad for a getaway from spending time. I'm kidding. I can hear my wife in the next room getting angry. But no, in all seriousness, I do hope that the event does come back and they've learned from the feedback they got last year and they make it even better than it was. There were some really cool skins, and I hope I can get to a skin giveaway again. Now, the next one up, new item, Gravitational Wave Graph. Now, this is what I was saying earlier about like a lot of the stuff on here being in typical EVE ease, if that makes sense, you know, just worded as it will be in the game with no idea what it is. If you just jump up to someone and say, hey, do you know what a sinusoidal field generator is? Do you know what a C-type energy Nosferatu is? They're going to look at you squonk and think, what on earth has happened to this person? It's time to get them sectioned. Now, gravitational wave graph. We can look at this and break it down to a few different things. First of all, gravitational waves, or gravitons, are a big part of the background on wide and narrow resonance scanners in the EVE Echoes version of New Eden. It's how we do our scanning, this whole graviton wave theory, and gravitational wave graphs, therefore, would seemingly be tied into that. I would love this to be the hacking minigame, but I really don't think it is, because that wouldn't be a gravitational wave graph. But I do think this is something to do with scanning and exploration, which would be pretty cool. There is the possibility that this could be the combined relic and data analyzer, both in one, but again, that doesn't seem likely. In EVE Online, there is a item that is a relic and a data analyzer combined. But again, that's got nothing really to do with the gravitational waves. The gravitational wave stuff is what happens when you're scanning. The relic and data analyzers is afterwards. So I'm not sure what this is. It's something tied to scanning and exploration, and that, of course, is going to get me excited. I literally put a video out, I'm not going to say yesterday, it was yesterday at the time of me recording this, but it was Wednesday, in regards to exploring New Eden in the Estero. And in that video I talk about how exploration does have some rather considerable difficulties that it's facing at the moment, and this could be something to help solve that. I do think just, you know, making the sites a little bit more common to spawn could be an answer, but I've no idea what this is. Gravitational wave graph, we've got nothing here if you tap on it for what this could further be, but hey, gravitational waves, definitely something to do with scanning and exploration. Graph, I don't know. It's going to be an interesting one. I'm excited about that. The third one up, Dull Star Treasure Trove, new discovery gameplay. Now again, this seems to be probably tied in with the gravitational wave graph, a new form of exploration and scanning. Now, a dull star would be something like a red dwarf, you know, a star that's on its way out or in its early days of formation or whatever, something that isn't, you know, overly luminescent. What this exactly means, again, I don't know. We can't really dwell on this. We just know that, again, this is probably something to do with scanning and exploration. It's probably tied in with the gravitational wave graph. And when it says treasure trove, hopefully that means you get a good amount of items out of this, something that's worth selling. That's always, you know, pretty cool, I think. We then have two detection arrays. Now, detection arrays to me sound like the kind of thing that are going to be tied into Corporation Citadel add-on structures. Things like, you know, the Bounty Management Center, etc. Now, an anomaly detection array suggests that this is going to either increase the spawn rate of anomalies, or just flat out increase the chance of rarer anomalies spawning, kind of like the pirate scanning array already in the game. And then we've got a base detection array. Now, base detection seems to suggest again that this is going to be something like generating additional pirate bases. I don't know how that would work, because you've already got one in the system that is going to be spawning anomalies. Are you able to find a second one? Is this the mysterious one in the background that we just refer to as a system anomaly? You know, the one that spawns system anomalies rather than base anomalies? I don't know. There's some interesting play that I think could be had there, but definitely this looks like it is going to be another boost to ratting, and I'd argue that maybe industry needs looking at before ratting, but at the same token, there are more people in the game involved in ratting than in industry, so I kind of can't get too angry that the developers want to give those people new content, rather than... It's a two-way thing. On one hand, I get that, you know, if 90% of your player base are involved in ratting in some way, shape or form, then if you do something that helps ratting, then you're helping 90% of your player base. On the other hand, if only 10% are involved in industry, then surely doing something for industry might drive other people over to try it. It's kind of one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't, double-edged sword either way around, and people are always going to get angry whatever happens there. I think for what we have, though, that's pretty cool. An anomaly detection array definitely seems to insinuate that you're going to be able to find and add on either additional anomalies, or they're just going to spawn faster. And I know that that sounds like the same thing, but it is subtly different. Does it add new spawns every hour, or does it mean that they spawn every 45 minutes instead? Things like that. That could be interesting. I'm keen to see what happens with those. Now, the big disappointment here is that January 2022 is currently empty. Now, when I spoke to Melos a couple of months back about various different balance issues, I aired some of my concerns about balance, he asked some questions about balance, and here I'd just like to take a quick aside to say, when I give feedback to the developers, which I do frequently and directly, I give my own personal thoughts and opinions, backed up with feedback from you guys in the comment section and on Discord and Twitter, etc. And I also give counter arguments. Just because I believe something should be the way it is, doesn't necessarily mean that's the right way. So when they say, what do you think about X? I will reply with, well, I think this, but there are other people out there who think that, and that's how I give feedback. Anyway, when I was talking to Melos, January 2022 is when he insinuated there would be a new balance patch. Now, originally the balance patch was supposed to be all the way back in August, but it didn't happen for one reason or other, and it got announced that it was being pushed back to October. Then the, obviously, Dreadnoughts and Carriers happened. That landed in October. Devs were busy trying to get those out the gate. So the balance patch got pushed back and back. And January is when I thought this was supposed to be happening. Melos hinted, well, it didn't hint, he said it's aimed at January. Then we had a recent post from Lancedart on Discord basically saying that he anticipates that a balance patch might not be until literally April or May, at which point it has been a full 12-month period between balance patches, which frankly I personally don't feel is good enough, and if you do not feel that is good enough, then please politely head over to the official Eve Echoes Discord, into the suggestions channel, and politely request that they move the balance patch forward to January. Point out that you think this is an urgent thing. Quite frankly, I am of the personal opinion that balance is long overdue. It should have happened in August. The fact that it's got pushed back to October and then to January was bad enough, but now the fact that it could be all the way in April or May, to me there are too many problems that need fixing. Even if they just go for some of the low-hanging fruit for now. There was a point in time when the developer Q&A suggested that developers were going to be looking at doing smaller balance patches more frequently, and it looks like they've not only rolled back on that sort of, I'm not going to say promise because they didn't promise it, but on that sort of suggestion, they've not just rolled that back, it looks like they may have actually just gone, well, okay, balance clearly isn't important, we need to go, we can skip it and just do it next year, which quite frankly I don't think is good enough. Even if you don't think there's much in the way of balance that needs happening, the concept that the developers feel that you can go 12 months without a balance patch, I feel is something that we should be pushing back against. And if you agree with me, head to the suggestions channel on the Eve Echoes Discord, head to Reddit and post there. heck, just comment down below. I will pass all that on to the developers and sort of gather that up as evidence. If you disagree with me though, please do let me know. I just really think January is kind of already pushing it for when we get a balance patch. Now, the fact that it's not on here might not mean it's not happening, it just might mean they haven't added it that far ahead yet, which is kind of disappointing, because I really enjoyed the fact that last year we had the Trello roadmap pretty much throughout the entire year that I could have a look at, and I could speculate of, oh, this is what's happening here and that's what's happening there. And I'd like to see this updated more frequently, perhaps even with notifications from the likes of Joseph on the official Eve Echoes Discord, or even on the Twitter account, basically saying, like, look, the Trello roadmap's been updated, check out what we're working on. I think that open honesty and transparency is always a good thing with a developer studio. I don't think they should necessarily listen 100% to what we're saying. They're developers after all, they know the game pretty well. We don't know every single aspect of the game perfectly. Whilst I don't think developers should ever listen to their audience 100%, I do think a back and forth communication is a great way. Now, I do also believe that CCP with EVE Online absolutely have spoiled their community. Those developers are above and beyond what should be expected of any development team, and I think that's to be lauded. It's one of EVE Online's major strengths, but I do think a lot of the conflict that we have with the developers is the people in EVE Echoes believe that that is what the developers should be doing here, and simply put, they just do not have the time for that. The studio is not big enough to be able to do that just yet. Either way, though, I'm excited about some of the things on this. I'm hoping that tactical overlay does come back soon. I missed that, it was really useful. I personally really want to know what this dull star and gravitational wave graph are. That's huge to me if it's more exploration content. The Yule Festival, we kind of knew it was going to happen, and I'm just hoping that, again, they've learnt from previous events and that they give something for everyone and we can have a real good fun time over Christmas with that. And I do hope that January does end up being our balance patch. I will be most disappointed personally if that is not the case, but hey, there we go. Anyway, these are of course my thoughts and opinions. If you think I've missed something about one of the items on the roadmap here, if you think that there's stuff they should be working on more, if you've got some really cool ideas, let me know in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions. Otherwise, folks, thanks for watching right the way to the end and listening to me ramble on about this. Happy sailing, and see you in New Eden.